Hey there everybody, Agent Fluffy here, and welcome to the finale of Turnabout Muffins. The Turnabout Muffins Part 4 finale by TheBronywiththeBowTie. So, I am so excited, and I'm going to finish that off with a bang. So I hope you enjoy it. And after this, I'm going to be doing a fanfic read of the next case, Turnabout Wonderbolt. So stay tuned for that. The judge banged the gavel on the desk to quiet down the gallery. Court, the trial of Mr. Behoos will now reconvene, he declared. Edward nodded as he took his desk as well. Of course, Your Honor. What do you suggest we do now? Mr. Rich has gone to the detention center. The judge nodded this. If he is willing to testify, then he will be brought to the stand, he stated simply. Edgeworth nodded. I see. Then let's send the guard to check on that. The judge nodded. Bailiff! He shouted. The guard standing next to the judge bench nodded. I'm on it! He grunted as he left the room. Edgeworth nodded. Very well then. I suppose in the meantime we should discuss the events of the court so far. The judge nodded once again. You first, Mr. Edgeworth. Edgeworth nodded. Of course, Your Honor. So as we know, the case began, Mr. Roos is accused by Mr. Rich of destroying a large order of muffins he had made a cute corner for his daughter's birthday. The judge put a hook to his chin and thought. I see. Please continue, Edgeworth, he said. However, as we now know at this point, Miss Hooves didn't do it, but instead it was her roommate, Miss Harvest, being paid by Mr. Rich. However, he claims he was blackmailed by higher-ups. The question is if he's telling the truth or not, and who these particular ponies are, he finished. The judge nodded. I see! Very well. I feel I can give my verdict on Miss Hooves now, so we may focus on the ordeal with Mr. Rich. Agreed? He asked. The prosecutor pony nodded. Agreed. Phoenix nodded as well. Agreed. In that case, the judge raised his gavel, I hereby judge defendant Mr. Behoos not guilty! He banged the devil on his desk. The impact sounded a bit louder than all the rest. The gallery began to cheer and threw confetti. The judge banged his gavel again. Order! Order! Please hold your confetti. The trial isn't over yet, he said as opponents quieted down and stopped throwing confetti. As I was saying, Mr. Wright, you've done it again. Phoenix smiled and rubbed the back of his head. Thanks, Your Honor. Indeed, Edgeworth said. But as the judge stated, the trial isn't over yet. The judge nodded. Yes, there still is a matter of Filthy Rich. Yes, while they wait for his return, Your Honor, would you mind to share your thoughts on the claims he had spouted during his episode? Edgeworth asked carefully. Of course, the judge said. I think these higher-ups might be fabricated story he made when he panicked, and should be the new suspect of this trial. Edgeworth frowned a bit. An understandable thought, Your Honor, though I must say I don't agree with it entirely. I'm unsure as well, but it's all we can do for now, the judge said. Indeed. Edgeworth claimed as the door to the court opened to reveal Mr. Rich being escorted by a guard. Edgeworth frowned a bit, clearly having no for rival Maya, Pinky, Twilight, and Applejack. The judge put his hoof to his chin. Does the accused have a lawyer? He said. Mr. Rich raised his hoof to rub the back of his neck nervously. None who would be willing at the moment, Your Honor. Edgeworth smiled ever so slightly at this. Then let me be the one to recommend Wright to do it. After all, he's already here. I was just about to say, the accused cannot find a lawyer, then the court will pick one for him. And I too chose Mr. Wright, the judge said. Phoenix nodded. I accept, Your Honor, he said. Edgeworth smiled at this. Good. Now that's all is in order. Where do you recommend we start this new trial, Your Honor? I say it begins with the questioning of Mr. Filthy Rich, the judge said. Edgeworth nodded, turning to Mr. Rich. Very well then, Mr. Rich. Do you promise to tell the truth, and nothing but the truth? Mr. Rich seemed a bit hesitant. I promise, Edward nodded. Good! Now you say you did in fact put this plan in motion by hiring Mrs. Harvest and accusing Miss Hooves of the crime. He looked down. Correct. Edward then slammed his hoof down on the desk before pointing to him. But you also claim you have higher-ups forcing you to make the decision despite you being CEO of your company. He looked down even more. Right again. Edward then turned to the judge. Your Honor, I feel that this is a matter we should pursue the most currently. Permission for the accused to begin the testimony? The judge nodded. Permission granted. Meanwhile, at Twilight, Maya, Pinkie Pie, and Applejack. What do you mean we can't get in? Applejack asked, a bit frustrated, as she stood in front of the secretary of the Barnyard Bargains office building. Twilight quickly put a hoof on their friend's shoulder. Applejack, please remain calm, she said. Sorry, but Mr. Rich isn't here right now, and you have no appointment, so... The secretary answered, much to the farm mayor's chagrin. Maya slammed her hooves on the secretary's desk. But they don't understand, she pleaded. Mr. Rich could be in really big trouble if you don't listen. The secretary sighed boredly. Oh, I'm sorry, but you don't just have the permission. We can then hop to the front. So they think we don't have any business in the back? The secretary nodded. Yes, that's what I said. Pinkie placed her hooves to her chin. We don't. No, we don't. Pinkie struck her face near the mayor's desk. None? The secretary seemed to getting frustrated. No! Pinkie then grinned. So what do? We can't go under? The secretary then threw her front hooves up. For the last time, yes! You can go back there! Pinkie then waved as she and AJ began to head through the doors. Okie dokie looky! Thanks! The secretary seemed satisfied until she realized what she had just fallen for. But it was too late by that time. Applejack and Twilight looked awestruck, while Maya walked past the secretary, giggling at Pinkie's antics. How did you do that? She asked with a smile. Pinkie looked at Maya, slightly curious. Do what? She asked as they trotted down the hallway. Get past the secretary! Maya exclaimed. Pinkie grinned at that. Oh, it's a good old dialogue switching, she remarked cheerfully as Twilight trotted in front of him down the hall. Something doesn't seem right, she remarked suspiciously. Really? Maya asked. What's that? She gestured how empty the halls were. I've been here a few times past royal business deals and such, but it had much more friendly air back then. Boys in the halls and whatnot. The work there I think must have gotten stricter somehow. It must be because those higher up filthies mentioned in court, Maya stated. Twilight nodded as they continued. That's what I'm thinking, Applejack said. But how does this come about? Whoa, maybe you lost a bad one now? Pinkie explained an idea. I put a hoof to her chin and thought. Maybe, look, we're getting closer to the office. Applejack nodded. Yep, would seem that way, she replied as they approached a larger pair of double doors. Next to it hung a golden plaque that read Office of F&F, although F&F seemed to be attached on and not naturally part of it. F&F? Applejack pondered for a moment. Pinkie then raised the roof in the air and began spouting ideas. Oh, maybe Frankie Floyd or Reed Full and Blackjack. Twilight rolled her eyes at her pink friend. F&F. Maya said and thought. Well, we'll wait to find out. Jack said as she quickly knocked on the door before opening it up. And both she and Pinkie emitted wide gaps upon what they saw, though Pinkie appeared to be simply out-dramatizing AJ. Inside were two yellow stallions in business suits, sitting at a large desk that appeared to be made for two ponies. Both of their manes were red, with some traits of white and were slicked back. The two looked almost identical, their key differences being that one sported a large mustache and their cutie marks. The cleanly shaven one depicts an apple slice, while the latter depicted a whole apple with a slice taken out. You up to? Applejack exclaimed eagerly. And you, I'm sorry, haven't met before? You just broke into our office rather rudely. her stallion replied. Hermione looked confusedly at the two ponies sitting at the desk. Are you F&F? She asked. The two stallions smiled as Maya asked that question. That, young filly, is a great question, first the pair said. He's Blim, the second suggested her brother, the first thing to say. He's Blam. Then they seemed to be about breaking the song the first again. And you got a foot to the 10, that's right, make a minute. Before Pinky leaped on the table, put her hooves in the floor, closed her mouth. Oh, no you don't. We're not letting you do that again. Me, my friends are allowed to break in random songs around here. AJ then pointed an accusing hoof on them. And don't let those two fool you with their empty promises. They attempt to run my family out of town. What? Maya shouted. You big jerks! You can't just do that to some pony. Is that what you're trying to do to Mr. Rich? The two gently lowered Pinky's hooves from them before turning to each other. I think I remember now, brother. It was that cider incident in our first visit, Blim said. Ah, that would explain much, Blim said before turning to Maya. Why, whatever do you mean, young filly? Why would everyone out our spoke stallion? AJ then took another step forward. Spoke stallion? I mean, y'all two have been using him as a puppet, she accused. The stallions simply turned to each other. Clyde put a hoof on her friend's shoulder to keep her calm. I wouldn't call it that, Blim began. We like to call it being generous, Blim finished. You two are in big trouble, Maya shouted. Do you know what's happening right now? Blim waved his hoof dismissively. A trial, yes, but I don't see how. After all, we would not have to accept to go to court first, Blim pointed out. Maya furrowed brow. My partner is questioning Mr. Rich right now in court. You get him to tell the judge all about you. They quieted for a moment before bursting into laughter. Oh, very likely, Blim commented. Oh, no, young Billy, you must understand. He won't say anything. Not a peep. Applejack began to walk out the door. But Pinky followed slightly confused behind. Twilight doing the same. What are you doing, AJ? We just can't give up! She exclaimed slightly uncharacteristically worried. Not, Pinky. You know we're not the type to just give up. I'm getting evidence! She announced, began pulling on the plaque to tear it off. Twilight tried to push Applejack away from the door. Applejack, stop! This won't solve anything! The brothers frowned and immediately stopped their laughter at this. First trespassing and now vandalism, brother! Blim said, looking at Flam. Flam nodded as he pressed a button. Security! They both shouted in unison. Maya closed her eyes tightly. This was out of control. She was begging in her mind, pleading for help from any pony. Thankfully, some pony answered. Maya's horn began to glow brightly, so bright that every pony had to shield their eyes. When the glow faded, Maya no longer appeared as a teenager. She looks like a full-grown adult mare. The pony who answered Maya's call for help was Mia Fey, Maya's deceased sister. It's not vandalism, she said, her voice no deeper and more confident. It's considered evidence. What? Applejack seemed confused as he successfully tore the plaque off, while Twilight stood next to her with a confused and odd expression. Pinky next to him, somehow now with a bag of popcorn in front of her as they watched. Blim and Flam were a bit confused as well. What do you mean? She clearly just tore it clean off the wall, Flim claimed. Mia smirked. Au contraire, she began. The F on the door was never there to begin with. It looked like it was nailed on the door. Recently, in fact. If anything, I say that is vandalism in itself. And it counts as evidence just as much as anything else presented in court. He looked slightly nervous at that. And trespassing? Flam asked. Yes, they had no business being back here, Flam followed up. Mia smirked at that as well. We were granted permission to come here by the secretary. Miss Pye can prove it. She was the one who asked. Pinky grinned. logo, AJ raised an eyebrow at that, Twilight rolling her eyes a bit. The brothers now simply completely freaked out. But, if you want to keep yourselves from being sent to prison, I suggest you come to court with us, Mia stated bluntly. The brothers frowned and sighed. We seem to have no choice, dear brother, Link said, licking the flam. He nodded in agreement. It would appear so. Mia nodded. Very well then, follow us. The two reluctantly did so, as Pinky happily led the way. Applejack kept a close eye on the two, Twilight keeping an eye on the farm meter's temper. They all hastily ran into the courtroom, Mia taking her place behind Phoenix's desk. About time you got back, Mia! He stammered. Mia put a hoof on Phoenix's shoulder. I don't have much time. Mine is getting weaker. Call Filthy Rich to the stand and press him about the Flim Flam brothers, and use this as evidence. She passed the F&F logo Applejack ripped off the wall. All right, Meek said. Afterwards, Mia transformed back into Maya, who collapsed under the desk from exhaustion. Your Honor, Phoenix said, I'd like to call Filthy Rich to the stand. Edgeworth raised an eyebrow slightly, a small smile on his face. Funny, Mr. Wright, seeing as how it's just what we're about to do, he pointed out. Phoenix blushed a bit, embarrassed. Yeah, but I'm going to save you the humiliation, Mr. Wright, the judge said as he banged his gavel. Mr. Rich, to the stand! Mr. Rich then went to the stand, still looking down slightly. What do you want me to testify about? I would like to know more about these higher-ups you spoke of, Edgeworth said matter-of-factly. Filthy and the brothers' faces all fell at that slightly. All right, Filthy said as he prepped his testimony. Witness testimony. It's true. I'm supposed to be the CEO of Barnyard Bargains up about a year ago when I made a dumb decision. However, I mercifully didn't lose the company completely, but was reduced more of a puppet for it. That's all I can say without getting even more trouble than I am for saying all this. The judge nodded. I see, Mr. Wright. You may cross-examine the witness. Phoenix nodded. Gladly, Your Honor. It's true. I'm supposed to be the CEO of Barnyard Bargains until about a year ago and made a dumb decision. Hold it! What was this dumb decision you speak of? Phoenix asked. Rich looked down. A pair of stallions I should know better than trust to play fair. It was clear he didn't want to say names, nor did he realize they were in a room. And you know the names of these stallions? Phoenix asked. Rich looked down again. I do, but I can't say. I would be in so much trouble. I can't afford that, he persisted, seeming rather desperate. Objection! Phoenix fiercely put his hoof at Rich. Either way, it doesn't matter, Phoenix shouted. And more is that, Mr. Wright? The judge asked. Phoenix presented the F&F logo and laid it out on his desk. Because through this, we already know who he's talking about. Who else in town do you know that has these initials, Mr. Rich? It was found nailed to your office door. Gah! Slowly exclaimed from looking down. Oh, fine. You got me. I've no choice. Any pony aware of the world's famous Flim Flam brothers? He asked dejectedly. I can't say I have, Edgeworth said in thought. Meanwhile, half the gallery raised their hooves, since most of the town had seen a cider incident about a year back. The brothers seemed really freaked out now. How is this supposed to get us out going to jail? Slim hissed in a hushed tone. I don't reckon it really was, partner, AJ said, thinking back to what Mia said. That had been lie that helped them. So lie. Thinking and sure. Too late! Judge beamed his gavel. I ruled that the Flim Flam brothers testify. Where there's evidence connected to this, there's still no motive, he said. Edgeworth nodded. Of course, there's a matter of getting it. At the moment, the two would nervously shove forward AJ and Pinky. Voila! Got it right here! Pinky said to a magician. Higgs chuckled at that. Well, that's convenient. He expected evidence, but not the suspects. This was even better. The pair walked to the stand, and when the Filthy walked off, just surprised at the defense. Edgeworth looked to the pair. Very well then. I'd like to know what sort of bet was made between Mr. Rich and these two. Flim Flam, correct? Is your honor fine with this course of direction? The judge nodded. I will allow it. Edgeworth nodded and looked at the pair again. Witness testimony. What sort of deal did we have with Mr. Rich that put us in this situation? Flynn began. Well, we found that apparently Barnyard Bargains was having some issues in a certain type of stock, Flynn continued. Demand was exceeding supply, so we decided to give him a helping hand. Business, like of course, Flynn picked up again. So we offered a contest to see who would produce it faster, his company or our machine. Flynn then raised his hoof slightly. With high stakes, of course, if he wanted, he would have free access to our machine. One of his own, even. Flynn then said, but if we want, we can gain control of the company. Flynn finished with, well, it should be apparent by now who won. The judge nodded. I see, Mr. Wright, you may cross-examine, he said. Cross-examination. What sort of deal do we have with Mr. Rich that put us in this situation? Flynn began. Well, we found that apparently Barnyard Bargains have some issue in a certain type of stock. Flynn continued. Hold it! What exactly was this stock? Being cast. Flynn did a slight gesture. Cider, of course. You get most of the stock from the local business Sweet Apple Acres. Flynn then finishing his thought with, which has great quality, but no supply due to them having made many other products as well. What makes you think you should help them produce apples and they already had some pony? Phoenix asked. I was just getting to that, Bloom claimed, seeming a bit more confident in himself now. Alright, tell us then, Phoenix said. The man was exceeding supply. Now, so we decided to give him a helping hand. Business-like, of course. Flynn picked up again. Hold it! Did Filthy accept the help? Phoenix asked, or did you force it on him? Flynn winked his hoof slightly. Why, what do you mean by force? Flynn then saying, if you mean like he did like our initial offer, then no. That's why we propose an alternative. Phoenix slammed his hoof on his desk. A bet to decide whether or not you would commit a hostile takeover of his company, correct? Flynn raised an eyebrow. You seem awful set on this hostile takeover business. Flynn then following with, what's hostile about competition they agree to compete in? Why make a competition with him in the first place? Phoenix asked. Why not just rearrange the deal if he didn't like it and agree to help him? It's certainly not our way, Mr. Lawyer, the minister. Yes, we have specific ways of going about our business, Flem said. Phoenix nodded. All right, he said. Please continue your testimony. So we offered a contest to see who produced it faster, his company or a machine. Hold it! Machine? Phoenix asked. What machine? Flem brightened slightly as he stretched his hoof into a dramatic gesture. Ah, well, that would be our very own, one-of-a-kind, super speedy, size squeezy 6000! Flem then followed with his own gesture. Made it ourselves. It serves our main mode of transport back when we're mainly on the road. And you offered him this machine in exchange for his company in a bet? Phoenix asked. The brothers nodded. Yes, our main way living, you see. We were at high stakes here as well, Flem pointed out. Phoenix said. Alright, keep going. Flem then raised his hoof slightly. With high stakes, of course, if we won, he would have free access to our machine. One of his own, even. Phoenix saw nothing wrong with his statement and nodded for them to continue. Flem then said, well, if we won, we would get control of the company. Hold it! And you won? He asked. Well, it should be obvious at this point, he said a bit nonchalantly. So what happened after that? Phoenix asked. Flem then said, well, Mr. Rich had to keep his end of the bargain. Was being a rather bad sport about it. Flem then claimed. So we came up with another deal. He could stay in the company so long as he worked as a spoke stallion. What do you mean by being a bad sport about it? Phoenix asked. Flem shrugged. He keeps going on and how about he couldn't lose the company? Flem cut it in. Though he didn't need to accept if he couldn't handle the stakes, Flem complained. We were generous letting him stay part of it. Alright, there is one question I'd like to ask you, Phoenix said. Applejack. Yes, they both asked simultaneously. Why do you have your alleged spokespony framed Derpy for theft? He asked. He seemed slightly nervous at that. Frame? Why, whatever do you mean? What has he been doing? Flim asked. Objection! Don't play dumb. We have written in the court record that Filthy Rich was ordered to frame Derpy Hoops to death by his higher-ups, and it was proven that those higher-ups are you! Phoenix pointed at them. No! The two exclaimed this, realizing what was happening. Edgeworth nodded slightly. This is true, Your Honor. May I ask that you now question why this set up, Mr. Hoops? The judge nodded. Permission to question the Fun-Fan brothers granted, he said. The Edgeworth nodded. Very well then, he said, turning back to them. Now it's to my understanding that Miss Hoops had been hired at some point to do delivery for the company. Was that after this takeover? The two looked to each other. I don't remember a thing, Lemon said. Edgeworth then slammed his hoof down on the table. Tell the truth! He jumped slightly at this. Yes, it was while I were in control, Clem admitted. Phoenix slammed his hoof down on the desk. And why would you want to frame her? He asked. Well, Clem seemed to be trying to come up with something. I think I know why, Edgeworth said sternly, looking to them. And why would that be, Edgeworth? Phoenix asked. He then gestured slightly. It was pointed out before that Miss Hoops cost the company quite a bit of money with her mistake. Meaning if they were in charge, said accusingly, pointing to them, they would be the ones losing a lot of money here. So they told Rich to frame her as revenge. Phoenix explained to slam his hoof down on the desk. Don't you know she's a mother? Isn't sending her to prison for messing up a delivery a little extreme? The brothers seemed about ready to break down. Phoenix pointed at them. You did frame her, didn't you? Confess! The Flim Flam brothers then threw their hoofs down. Fine! It's true! Flam exclaims. We couldn't deal with the problem she was bringing us, so we had to do away with her! Flim followed up. And the truth shall set you free! Phoenix shouted, triumphantly putting his hoof on his waist, and smirking at the Flim Flam brothers. Edgeworth raised an eyebrow. With all due respect, Wright, what exactly do you mean? It is your Honor's ruling, of course, but now I can tell they have earned a great amount of jail time for such deception. The two brothers seemed nervous again at that. Phoenix nodded. Yes, but if they keep on lying, they would have gotten a lot more trouble, he said. I agree, the judge said. Therefore, I find defendants Derpy Hoof and Filthy Rich not guilty. He banged his gavel on the desk. The gallery was quiet. The judge rolled his eyes. You may cheer and throw your confetti now. The gallery did just that. Edgeworth smiled a bit. Seems you've done it again? Yet again, Mr. Wright. Yeah! Phoenix touched his always wet and stretched on his brow. Thanks, Edgeworth, he said. Edgeworth nodded slightly. And thank you, Wright. Before turning to the judge. Is there anything else that should be addressed, Your Honor? The judge shook his head. Other than the apologies or order for wrongfully accusing Miss Hoops? No, he said. The court is adjourned. He banged his gavel on his desk. Edgeworth smiled as he watched the bailiff take Flim Flam brothers away and began to walk again to the lobby. AJ, Pinky, and Twilight Ball grinned at the judge's announcement and began to walk the lobby as well. He actually did it! Twilight said in amazement. Applejack chuckled at that. They sure did, she said. They sure as heck didn't do it alone. Yeah, we helped him! Pinky shouted as she wrapped both of them in a tight hug. Meanwhile, Phoenix nudged Maya a tiny bit to wake her up. Once his assistant woke up, the pair and Derpy walked down to the lobby. They were met by Applejack, Twilight, and Pinky. You did it, Phoenix! You did it, Phoenix! Applejack smiled before turning to Derpy. Everything has turned out well as we said. Phoenix smiled. Well, I have plenty of help. Derpy sighed deeply in relief. Oh, I was so scared. Pinky grinned. You know what this calls for? A party! Applejack chuckled a bit. Not quite yet, Pinky. I reckon there's still some things that need to be taken care of. She frowned slightly, thinking. Maya smiled silently. Oh, I love parties! Phoenix looked to the cowmare. What needs to be taken care of, AJ? He asked. Applejack then briefly sighed, pulling down his hat slightly. Well, there's a matter of Carrot Top's role in all this, and Mr. Rich, I reckon some apologies are in order, she then thought. Phoenix nodded. Yeah, Carrot and Filthy need to apologize to Derpy, he said in thought. Excuse me, a familiar voice said as they approached the group. I beg your pardon, everybody, Mr. Rich said as he reached the group. Well, what do you know? Applejack explained on his arrival. He looked down slightly at that. Carrot Top was next to the business pony. Derpy almost immediately turned around and crossed her front hooves over her chest, not looking at her. Twilight placed a hoof on Derpy's shoulder. What do you have to say for yourselves? She asked. Pinky, watching nearby, wanted to interrupt Derpy, but unable to do anything given the moment. I want to apologize, Filthy said. To all of you. Phoenix nodded. It's all right, he began. It wasn't your fault. You were blackmailed. He shook his head slightly. Yes, but I should have known better to make a deal with them, especially after that one incident, he said, looking at Applejack. Applejack nodded. I will admit I am a bit disappointed you agreed to take their plan after what happened on my farm. But I can of course forgive you, Mr. Rich. After all, you're like family to me, she said. Mr. Rich laughing a bit as well. Right. I wish I could have done something to get out of it sooner, though. AJ chuckled as well before it faded slightly. I reckon we all do, but that ain't really my forgiveness you need here, partner, she said, looking at Derpy. Derpy, Carrot Top said, standing in front of Derpy, trying to get her attention. Derpy just turned her back to the carrot pony. Huh, she said. Derpy! Carrot choked. I'm sorry! I'm so sorry! I was angry. My carrot farm was about to go under. I needed the money. It was a dumb decision. Such a dumb decision, and I'm so sorry! I'm so sorry! Carrot covered her eyes and started crying. Derpy then turned around and saw her friend was crying. She almost immediately hugged her. I forgive you, Derpy said with a smile. Carrot looked to her friend, tears in her eyes. You do? She sniffed. But how can you? Derpy smiled and shook her head. I might not be the sharpest light bulb in a crayon box, but I know when some pony really feels bad about something, and I know you didn't want to do it, so I forgive you. She closed her eyes and smiled. Applejack lowered her hat, watching thus the tears begin to well up in her eyes. Twilight turned away when tears appeared on her face. Pinky, on the other hoof, let loose a fountain of tears. Filthy stood by patiently, smiling as he watched the scene. Carrot hugged her friend tightly. Thank you, Derpy. Thank you, she said in between sobs. Filthy then cleared his throat slightly. I apologize to interrupt, but I feel as though I might be able to help you somewhat. Carrot looked over to him. He adjusted his tie nervously. I apologize immensely for all this misfortune I inadvertently placed on every pony. If I had been a bit more intelligent in my deal with those no-good calm ponies, but I'm a stallion, my word, Miss Harvest. Bar your bargain, still pay you the money promised. He still seemed slightly bitter, though not because he had to pay her, but for causing all this in the first place. A small smile then crossed his face. And I'm also interested in starting a business deal with your calf farm, much like we already do with Sweet Apple Acres, and that's part of the business. He turned to Applejack, nodded slightly. Carrot's eyes widened. Really? You would do that for me? No, I don't deserve it. Derpy laughed. Nonsense, Carrot. If anything, I say you earned it. Earned it? Carrot asked. How? By apologizing, silly! Derpy giggled as she ruffled her friend's mane. She's right, Sugar Cube. We all make mistakes. Sometimes bigger than others. But for so long we learn from them, then it straightened us, Applejack said. Pinky then blurted out,
Yeah, like that one time when I closed my...
before Twilight placed one hoof over her mouth so he wouldn't get too off topic. And it seemed to me what y'all two did was just that. A simple mistake because of conditions beyond your control. AJ finished looking at Carrot Top and Filthy Rich. Carrot smiled, tears still streaming down her face.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Mr. Rich smiled. Ain't a problem, as long as every pony's alright. And Miss Hooves ain't too mad at me, he said, looking down slightly again. Derpy smiled.
How can I be mad? She said. This is great. Let's all have muffins to celebrate, she shouted.
Piggy grinned.
Yeah, that sounds great,
she exclaimed. So I see everything's been resolved here, Edgewood said, walking over to them. Yeah, everything is fine, Piggy said, looking to his rival.
Mama!
Piggy shouted, running to her innocent mother.
Muffin!
Derpy shouted. Then they hugged each other slightly. Edgewood smiled slightly as he watched the reunion, and turned to Applejack, Pinky, and Maya. I must say that I'm greatly appreciative of all the help you three provided. There is no possible way we could have solved this without it. Pinky grinned, while Applejack chuckled a bit. Ain't no problem, partner, after all. As an element of honesty, I always try to keep my promises. Edgewood seemed shocked at this. What? He exclaimed as he took a step back. Element of honesty? Phoenix asked.
You mean you two don't know?
Derpy said. Edgewood shook his head. No, I had no idea I was working with one of Elements of Harmony representatives. Oh, this is a great honor. Pinky laughed a bit.
Two, actually. I'm Element Laughter.
Edgewood seems to be taken aback once again. What? Two? He seemed to be rather excited, actually.
Three, actually,
Twilight said.
As you most likely know, me being the princess of Equestrian and all, I'm the element of magic.
Wow, this is amazing, Phoenix said. You three are like celebrities, Maya interjected. Pinky kept grinning slightly, but Applejack seemed slightly embarrassed. Oh, shucks. Regardless, I still prefer for you to treat it the same as Bar. Pinky nodded.
Yeah!
Phoenix nodded. All right then, Maya. There's something for me to ask, he said. When did you contact Mia? Maya said.
Oh, I did it back in the Barnyard Bargains. She helped us convince the Flim Flam Butters to come to court.
Pinky nodded vigorously.
Yeah, it was like she was there. And there was a splash of light and she was telling every pony what's what.
Applejack nodded. Is that what you mean by your channeling? She asked Maya. Maya nodded.
Yep, I'm a spirit medium. And draining, she said. Whenever I need help, I can contact my sister, and sometimes she'll help us.
AG nodded slightly.
Right. I remember you explaining your powers before. I had no idea that's how it worked.
Twilight said. Pinky nodded.
Yeah, that was awesome-tastic!
Pinky said. Thanks, Maya said. Pinky laughed.
Well, you know what we mean now, right? A party!
She exclaimed silently. Edgewood backed away slightly. A party.
A party?
I exclaimed.
That sounds awesome, right, Nick?
Huh? Oh yeah, a party sounds good to me, Phoenix said.
A party celebrating my mama's innocence,
Pinky shouted. Derby blushed. Well, you all have fun with that then, Edgewood said, beginning to leave.
Oh, you're leaving? Come on, Edgy, it'll be fun!
Pinky exclaimed. Edgewood looked around slightly. Parties aren't exactly my style, he said. Applejack then placed her hoof on her shoulder. Oh, come on, you're cute. Fun. I'm sure our friends Yellow and Bearers be there if you're interested in meeting all of us, she offered. He perked up at that. Yes, Miles, he said. I mean, I know you're a prosecution attorney, but you don't have to be such a stick in the mud like the others. He nodded his eyes slightly toward Phoenix, but didn't say anything.
Great! I'll go set everything up. Hopefully Twilight will let us use the library. That's always a good spot.
Pinky exclaimed, getting to bounce off. Pinky, of course you'll let use the library. Huh?
Wait for me! Twilight shouted, hovering a bit with her wings to catch up with her excitable friend. Well, I better go after them. See y'all at the party, Applejack said. She followed out. Derpy Dinky left the courthouse shortly after, eagerly excited for the party. After a few seconds of silence, Edgeworth and Phoenix nodded to each other, and the three of them, Maya and Edgeworth, left the courthouse. The end. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the finale. So, this has been Agent Fluffy, and I'll see you guys next time on Turnabout Wonderbolt. By patiently, smiling as he watched the scene, Carrot hugged her friend tightly.